Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Southern Outdoorsman Podcast. We got some Q&As for you today. We're going to be doing a turkey Q&A along with a couple whitetail Q&As that have to do with a food plot as well as trail cameras. Excited about those. Jacob, how are you?
I'm doing great. Doing fantastic. Turkey season's a few days closer now, so
It's getting real close for us.
yeah, it's getting super close, within a week and a half almost. So I know today we're going to kind of get off or get kicked off talking some turkey scouting with our first listener Q&A, and that's something I'm always kind of interested in because I used to have a lot of these questions, and I've got some thoughts on it, but I'm interested in seeing what the listener has to say.
Yeah, definitely. One thing we're going to mention before we get into the Q&As, which, by the way, we do these every Thursday. If you're new here, tuning in for turkey season. We do a Q&A episode every single Thursday. Every Monday, we have an interview episode with a well-informed and interesting guest. So that's what this is today. I will say this Saturday, March 8th, is the Conservation Advisory Board meeting in Montgomery, Alabama. We usually have, for the state of Alabama, one of these per year, and it's basically where you can go and address the Conservation Advisory Board, which is a group of, I believe it's 18 appointed members to this board from around the state. I believe they're all appointed by the governor.
Mm-hmm.
And they set our season dates, our bag limits, our hunting regulations. So if you've got any thoughts about season dates, bag limits, baiting, anything like that, this is where you go and you make your voice heard, state your opinion. You can find some details of that in the description of this podcast. Jacob and I are both going to be there. You got some extra info?
I was just going to say, it starts, if you want to register to actually present to the board, which I'm planning on doing, you have to be there between 8 and 8:30 to register. Free registration. The meeting starts at 9 o'clock, and it will be, I'm trying to look at the address on here. They don't make it very easy. It's going to be at the Gordon Persons Building Auditorium, which is in Montgomery, Alabama. So, or just a quick Google search, Alabama Cab meeting 2025. It'll have all the information on there. But yeah, it's a good time because, again, if you want your voices to be heard for anything, whether they're doing great or you don't think the organization and the I guess the CAB, the Conservation Advisory Board, is making great decisions. Please come let your voice be heard. It's a good time. I enjoyed it last year. I got to present a little bit about some turkey season updates last season. So again, if you're a turkey hunter, deer hunter, small game trapper, whatever, it's a great time to come and let your voices be heard. So definitely want more of you guys to be there. I wish, I don't know when they publicize this, but it wasn't as early as I thought they were going to do.
Yeah.
I feel like they would know the date 6 months out in advance and all that information. And I think it was just like a week or two ago they kind of made the announcement.
I don't know if it was a week or two ago, but it was definitely pretty recent. Because I was checking it back in January and I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
But it's usually in March, April, or May every single year. So anyways, all right, y'all be watching out for that. Hopefully we'll see y'all there on Saturday. All right, let's kick it off. This first Q&A submission is from Brock Jacobs from New Jersey, and the subject is turkey scouting.
Hey guys, this is Brock, one of your Yankee listeners from up here in New Jersey. I got two questions when it comes to turkey. The first one is where to kind of even start when it comes to scouting. I'm going into my 5th year of turkey hunting. I shot my first bird last year. I've seen some turkeys and I've heard them while I was out in the woods, but at this point I kind of feel like it's more of like an accident that I'm getting into them. I don't really know where to start and where to begin to start looking for sign, and don't really know what sign I should be looking for to get an idea of where these birds are and to get on them. The picture that I uploaded with this, it's a 250-acre farm that I hunt. I've seen turkeys during deer season, but I haven't actually hunted that during spring yet. I've only been hunting public land. I kind of feel like I am just kind of stumbling upon the birds and don't really have any direction of where I'm going yet. And I want to try to get into some out-of-state hunting, so I don't really know what to look for, like while I'm e-scouting or doing anything of that sort. So any kind of tips and tricks or old episodes that I can refer to kind of help me out with that would be greatly appreciated. The second question that I had is kind of pertaining to the private property that I'm on. If I'm seeing the turkeys during deer season, can I kind of rely on that and they're going to still be there come springtime? Or is turkey something where, you know, they kind of change their home range a little bit, and I have a chance of them not being there at all in the spring? Haven't really looked into that, haven't really studied much of that, like, you know, through the different podcasts and videos that I've listened to so far. So any kind of knowledge you guys can push on that would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for everything that you guys do. Love the content, love the podcast. Keep it up.
All right, appreciate the question. So right off the bat, one thing I will say is just because they were there in the fall does not mean they will be there in the spring. And looking at your private land, especially with it being in ag country, this is a little different, I feel like, in big timber blocks where you're hunting like a big section of just timber. I feel like maybe they're a little bit more reliable in areas like that where it's like, yeah, they're going to move around, but they're not going to move like 4 miles or something like that. If you're in an area with a lot of fields and pastures and agriculture, I feel like they actually will move kind of far. So just because they were there in deer season doesn't mean that they're going to be there in the spring. Also, that doesn't mean that they're not going to be there in the spring. They might be. I would just take that for whatever it's worth. I'll go first on this. I think that when it comes to turkey scouting, there's 2 things that are valuable. Like if you're hunting your public land or if you're hunting this private land, first and foremost, it's always good to know the ground that you're turkey hunting. Because you want to know where all the hang-ups are at. You want to know how the terrain lays out so you can go and move on a gobbler, know what you can get away with, know the areas that he might be more likely to walk up through. So, for instance, like on my club, there's a couple different ridges where these turkeys like to hang out, and I've walked these ridges, and I know how they set up, and I know, okay, there's like a real steep side of this ridge right here, but off the other side, it's really gradual. If there's a turkey down there, I bet I could set up right here, and he would want to walk up this, more gentle embankment to get up to me rather than come up that steep stuff. So that's valuable. When it comes to looking for like actual turkey sign and looking for actual turkeys and where they're at, I personally don't really start doing that until I'm pretty close to season, like within 15 or so days, because they can move and they switch around. So like if I go locate, like right now it's March 4th, and our private land season is going to start on March 25th. So it's like I'm not necessarily going to go out this afternoon and look for turkeys and then hunt based off of that. I would maybe just be trying to get a lay of the land more so than looking for turkeys. If I find them, great, but I'm just going to have to go back and confirm that they're still there a couple days before the season, if that makes sense. What were your thoughts?
Well, what's a hang-up?
A hang-up would be like there's like an old barbed wire fence running through the woods that the turkey's not going to want to cross, or there's a steep ditch that he's not going to want to cross, or there's a big fallen tree or something, like just something that's going to prevent the bird from having an easy, just obvious way to walk to get to you.
Yeah. So, Brock, I've actually found one area that I like to turkey hunt based off deer hunting in the fall. Because in the fall, I'd go in there and there would be groups of gobblers in there in that specific area. And then I've gone back in the springtime, and I don't know if it's the same turkeys, but there's other gobblers in that location and been able to kill them. But again, that's in more of like a big wood setting. It's not an agriculture setting, kind of like how your property sets up. That being said, I mean, kind of looking at the aerial imagery of your property, there's a lot of residential areas around there. So there's not a whole bunch of other places for turkeys to go. It looks like that block of, that property probably sets up some of the best.
You look like you got a great property.
So, where you see turkeys in the fall, especially in agriculture, doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be in the spring, but they're still probably going to be pretty close. When it comes to scouting for birds, kind of like what you were saying, I kind of keep tabs of where I find scratching throughout the fall and then like early spring. But really, it's more like what Andrew you were saying is knowing the lay of the land, how the area sets up, how you can navigate it if you need to move on a turkey, and also based off where you're finding scratching, specifically early spring, as being areas that they're feeding on or feeding in, and there's a higher concentration of turkeys. That's good to know, but really just knowing a better lay of the land, so you know how to navigate, and again, obstacles that could potentially hold up a turkey from coming to you in different setups. And we've had plenty of guys on the podcast talk about that, like how important it is for you to know your property, how your property sets up for you to be able to navigate on a turkey and get him to come in clean to you. So you don't have, again, a fence, a down tree, a big creek, or a steep ravine between you and the turkey that holds him up from coming across. That's super, super important for you to know. When it comes to also scouting for turkeys outside of your property that you're hunting on now, like aerial scouting, looking at stuff like that, one big thing which I don't think a lot of people do. I've done it in the past, especially with Arkansas, is built relationships with game wardens or calling game wardens that oversee like one or two of the counties that I'm interested in hunting in, and asking them, is it even worth my time to look at that area, especially if turkey numbers aren't super high in specific locations. Ask them like what the harvest records are like, and then also, is it even worth my time, or is there another area of the state or the county I should look at doing? And I had a game warden do that to me for me in Arkansas, and helped out tremendously because I originally wanted to go to a place that I've deer hunted. And I've seen birds, but not a ton of birds. And he said, he's like, we normally get a handful of turkeys killed on that whole piece of public. He's like, I'd recommend going to this other section, this other piece of public, and you should have no problem getting turkeys. And that absolutely worked out for me. Also having a mix of water, like good water sources, whether it's creeks, rivers, stuff like that. And then a mix of timber, and preferably if you have some open ground around it. It doesn't have to be on the public land. It can be on private land next to it. But having like a mixed diversity of habitat along with water seems to lend itself really well for turkeys. And pretty much every place I've gone, that's how it sets up, and you'll find birds there. Also, you'll probably find other turkey hunters there too, so note taken on that. But yeah, the big thing about turkey hunting is more so almost listening, like knowing the lay of your land, knowing how your property sets up, and then also just going out there and listening in the mornings when they're gobbling on the roost or on the ground, where are they roosting at, and then taking notes like on onX, dropping pins a week before season when you go out there every morning. Wherever you're hearing them gobble from on the roost, drop a pin on the map. And again, the compass feature on onX is really, really handy to kind of judge distance of where you think the bird's at from where he's gobbling. But drop pins on all the roost locations so you kind of have that marked. And then again, just be listening to birds, and especially if you have enough time to listen once they're on the ground, if they keep gobbling, where they go to. Sometimes they'll stay within 100 yards of that tree that they roosted in or closer. Other times they're on a move and they're on a mission. They may go a quarter mile or half mile in one direction. If you can keep tabs on before the season of where they like to go, then the opening week of your season, if you can't kill them right off the roost, then typically where they've shifted to kind of in the morning, an hour or two after fly down, and then where to shift into in order to get an opportunity at a turkey.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that property looks pretty good. Looks like he's got the best turkey woods in the whole place.
I hate hunting field birds though.
Yeah,
but there's enough timber you can probably not kill them on the fields, but yeah, you can keep the agriculture fields. I don't want nothing to do with it.
Yep. We're so fortunate that turkeys like to go stand in open areas and holler at the top of their lungs basically and tell us where they're at. That makes things a lot easier.
Open areas is in timber, not necessarily like giant fields.
I mean, they do it in giant fields too.
I know, but like okay, you're talking about generality. I hate hunting them in the fields.
Yeah, no, I don't like.
I've got decoys. Don't use the decoys. If I hunted more fields, I would just because of that. But that's so frustrating. It's a lot more fun in the timber.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is a lot more fun in the timber.
So, anyways, Brock, hope that helps you. Again, it's pretty simplistic. Again, on your property, just know the lay of your land. Go out and listen. Mark roost spots. Listen to where they're moving after they fly down, and then you'll be more prepared. You'll be a lot more prepared come season to have success early on, and try to get your tags filled.
All right. Next up, we got Shelby Yeager from Alabama. The subject is a food plot in poor drainage.
Hey, my name is Shelby, and I just want to say I love you guys and y'all's podcast. I have been watching it this past year. I discovered it probably back in October, November of this year, and I've been binge watching you guys and learning a lot. I'm trying to implement everything that you guys have taught, but I do, now that season's over with, I do have a question. So I live on 2 acres of land. And then the little section behind our house that we don't have fenced off, one day I just decided to throw out some extra corn and put a game camera out. We live in a somewhat rural area, so I was only expecting a couple of does. Well, we have a pile of deer and some really nice bucks. Well, this coming up year, I want to go ahead and start working on a food plot back here. What I originally wanted to do was do clover and do the edges with something tall like a switchgrass or sorghum, just to give cover to make them feel more comfortable to come out during the day. They have come out during the day a couple of times, but because of the human activity, they get just spooked off, or they come 10 minutes before night time. But anyway, my predicament is I want to make a food plot, but our property has very poor drainage. Every single time it rains, it just holds water. We live in a swampy area. So if you guys have any recommendations on a food plot that can grow in this kind of condition, that would be great, or any tips or tricks. And I can show you guys an example. It just rained yesterday, and here is the water in our backyard. I mean, it just sits here, and it's in a good piece of our backyard, not all of it, but in some spots it's just puddles and it won't go away. So if you guys have any recommendations, that would be great, because I really want to bow hunt back here next year, and I will include some photos of 2 of the bigger bucks, just so you guys have an idea of like where the house is, because the house will be in one of the photos. And just if you have any recommendations, that'd be great. Thanks.
All right, so food plot in a low-lying area. What you got?
So I just called before we got started on the podcast. Called our buddy Adam Keith at Lane and Legacy to ask his thoughts on it. Because again, when it comes to food plots and stuff like that, again, me and Andrew aren't crazy. We're just not overly familiar with it because we just don't do it a whole bunch. But we got great resources like, again, Adam and Matt from Lane and Legacy. So asked them the same question. And right off the rip, Adam was like, I hate questions like this because it's like so tough when it comes to like drainage and like truly how bad the lack of drainage on a property is. But he recommended doing clover and doing a perennial clover plot, and then also going back in the summertime and planting turnips in the same plot. So in case something happens with the clover, have some crazy rains in the summertime, the turnips will last and will work really well even in that damp condition. So that's what he recommended.
And he also said those are 2 of the most affordable ones as well.
Yeah, super budget friendly. You're not going to spend a ton of money on it. So again, doing clover and then coming behind in the summertime and planting turnips in that same plot. So again, give that a shot. Again, come pretty highly regarded with Adam and Matt, or really Adam, Keith, Matt Dye at Land Legacy. So and if you want any more of that kind of conversation, because we don't talk about that a whole bunch, you go check out their podcast, Land and Legacy. They have that discussion quite often and have a bunch of past episodes on that same topic.
Yeah, they got a lot. I think they have more episodes than we do.
Way more.
It's crazy
Way more.
how much content they put out. Yeah, they're a tremendous wealth of knowledge. So, yeah, I would refer to them on that. Sorry, we're not more useful there.
Yeah, but again,
that's why we call people.
Yeah, that's why we called them. Give you a good answer. So yeah, again, recommended. Adam recommended again clover plot, and then putting turnips in the summertime. It should be good to go. See how that works for you, and then kind of go from there. And it's also probably not a bad idea to either do switchgrass around the edge of it, kind of have a feathered edge, a little more security cover, or you could do sorghum. My uncle plants sorghum at the farm, and the deer do love it. And also it's a visual obstruction for them, so they feel comfortable moving through that stuff.
Yep, that's definitely a good idea to do that around the edges. All right, next up we got Rocky Miller from Mississippi, and the subject is, am I on the right path or not?
What's going on? My name's Rocky. I'm a new viewer, new listener. This past season was my very first deer season to hunt, 32 years old and just now starting. Since I started, I've got pretty much obsessed with deer hunting. My wife says I'm obsessed now. And I've been watching every episode and past episodes that y'all have been doing. And I know y'all love these in the field questions, so I've got a question for you. I just found this spot based off of information I learned from your podcast. I'm up on the top of I think y'all would call it a finger, where the heel meets. So I've got a big drainage down there. I've got a big drainage down there. I've got a pond there. And then, like, I guess y'all would call it like a pinch point where you could walk between another pond over there. So I got a pond, funnel, pond, and then I'm on a finger. Right here I see a bunch of pines, so that's a hard edge right there. These pines circle up this hill, and then they go all the way around and back down the other side of the other drainage. Is this a spot you would hunt? If so, how would you access it? Because right now I would have to just come right through that between the two ponds and walk up this hill. And then I was thinking this would be the tree that I would sit in. That way I could watch over both sides. With this being my second scout ever, do y'all think I'm on the right path? Is this kind of a setup you would like? This tree right here overlooking both sides of these drainages. Just let me know if it's something I should go for. One bad thing is I did see someone else's camera right over here, so maybe I should forget this spot altogether. Thank you guys. I appreciate everything y'all do.
Appreciate it, Rocky. I would not forget about the spot just because someone else's camera was there. When it's being public land, I mean, you're going to have that. But what's your take on this? I'm curious.
First off, those are turkey-looking woods.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That's the first thing. Rocky, you said you just got into deer hunting. Turkey hunting-wise, those woods look fantastic.
Yep.
What was the guy earlier? Asked about the turkey scout question? Crap.
Oh, man, you would ask. Brock. So Brock, that's what turkey woods look like, in my opinion. But anyways, we got aerial imagery? Just can't show this online. Yeah, we can't show this because it's public.
Gotcha. So one thing I would recommend, Rocky, like that area looks fine. I don't like how open the hardwoods are. Now, again, it's late season now, and I'm guessing maybe you're kind of getting to bow hunting, but you probably gun hunt a good bit, especially being a state like Mississippi where we have long gun seasons similar to Alabama. I would look more so towards the habitat edge of the pines to the hardwoods, and that's probably where you're going to find a lot more scrapes and a lot more activity. Because that's the security cover. That's what the deer are going to kind of get into. So I would cheat my way towards that a lot closer and even run a camera somewhere around that habitat edge between the pines and the hardwoods. Maybe have a mock scrape or find a scrape. I'm sure you could find a scrape in that location, especially being in a little more hill country. And I think you'd have a little bit more success there than directly right where you were standing. But I mean, to me, as a gun hunter, you have the right mindset of kind of being able to, you're kind of watching multiple different paths to travel potentially. I would just get way closer to the pines specifically because I think a lot more of your movement's going to be in and out of those pines or coming paralleling those pines than it's going to be just walk through the wide open hardwoods outside of potentially early bow season when they're hitting oaks that are dropping and feeding on acorns. So that's my thought.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. I was going to say the thought process, I would say, yes, you're definitely on the right track. Looking at the saddle, the finger ridge, yes, that is a finger ridge, by the way. The ponds, that all makes sense on paper. Where it falls short is kind of what Jacob was saying. Those woods are really open. That's what we would call pretty woods. And you could absolutely kill a deer right there. But is that going to be the place where you go and see a deer on every hunt or every other hunt? I'm going to say probably not, just looking at it. And looking at the screenshot here on the map, I could be wrong. I've never hunted your area. But just as a general rule of thumb, those open hardwoods like that just don't tend to produce a ton of sightings if you're on public land like what you are. I can't show it because it's a screenshot of public, but I'll just say it on here for you. You're kind of down on the bottom third of the ridge, and people watching the video that you sent in can kind of see that. Like that finger ridge, you're down towards the bottom edge of the main ridge system. And when you turn and you look uphill, you can see that finger ridge keeps going up to a larger ridge. Some of the things that excite me about the area, specifically in this screenshot that you sent us, is if you look all the way to the very top of the image. Sorry, listeners, this is just for Rocky. If you look at the very, very top of the image, way up on the main ridge, there's a great big saddle right there that the property line runs right slam through the middle of. I would go look at that. I would go look at all those ponds around the habitat edges, because it seems like this area kind of, like the ridge is wooded, but when you get down into the bottoms, there's a little bit of habitat diversity down there. I would go look at those bottoms, and I would spend a lot of time looking around there as well. That's just my thought. But yes, I would say that you're on the right track. Just look for what you found there in a thicker setting, because even those pines that you sent, just looking at them on the video, they look pretty big, meaning that underneath there's probably not going to be much cover. So even those pines don't look great to me. But if you can find a similar scenario in an area where you've got younger, thicker pines and an area where you have maybe even some thicker hardwoods, maybe you got a better understory of hardwoods, then I feel like you're really cooking. Yeah. Then I feel like you're in a really good situation.
Yeah, if you can stand on the ground and see over 50 yards standing on the ground, through all the cover, or if there's no cover at all, like in that area, I mean, you see 150 yards probably. If you can see, to me, that buffer's 50 yards. If I can see past 50 yards on the ground, it's probably in 90% of the circumstances, at least in the Deep South, it's probably a little bit too open. Now, if you climb up in a tree, if you can only see 20 yards, I've hunted areas that you can only see 10 yards on the ground because of how just brushy everything is. But if you climb up a tree, I could shoot a deer at 150 yards with a rifle.
Yep.
But the deer can't see very far in front of it. That's a perfect situation. Again, specifically gun hunting, not talking bow hunting here. Talking about burning some powder. And again, that's what I would be looking for. You want good understory on the ground that, again, you're actually kind of having to move through, whether it's briars, saplings, whatever. You want a mix of that on the ground that you can't see very far. But the advantage of, climbing a tree and getting up in a tree, whether you're using a climber, a saddle, lock on, whatever, getting high enough up off the ground that you can see down through all that stuff and be able to pick your shots, that's where you're going to have a lot more success. Personally, I like the top of that ridge, or getting up higher up on that ridge.
Yeah, same.
Even if it's not like super thick up there, which it probably isn't, I would tend to lean towards that, as in bucks are going to be specifically bucks, but even does, they're going to be spending a lot more time on that top third of that ridge system, just because of the habitat diversity.
Where it's steeper.
It's steeper, but also those pines are a little bit darker underneath, especially when the leaves fall off those hardwoods. And it's going to be a little bit more natural travel point than, kind of where you're at. Where you're at, I would almost call more of like a no man's land. Like, yeah, you're going to find sign there, but the likelihood you're going to kill a deer there, specifically a buck, during legal hunting hours is not super high, in my opinion. I'd go up in elevation, or just, again, find thicker cover that sets up well with a good travel corridor.
Yep, definitely. All right, cool. Well, Rocky, appreciate the question. Appreciate everybody's questions that have been writing in. We got a couple more submissions over the last couple of days, so we're going to be getting to those. Throughout turkey season, I don't know exactly what we're going to do yet, to be completely honest. We'll definitely be doing Q&As, but I think we might also end up doing some throwback episodes on some Thursdays, because we did that a couple weeks ago with the Nathan Killen and Rusty Johnson episode, and it was pretty well received. So we might go do some more of that. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do.
Well, and also if you got, again, any turkey Q&A questions, please submit those as well, especially as we're getting into season here in the next few weeks in the Deep South and the next, month or two, for pretty much all of us. Feel free, even in a circumstance, like say something happens, you don't get a turkey killed, but you have an interesting scenario, just film that in the field and submit that. That'd be fantastic for us to kind of go over on the actual podcast, because I am beyond excited for turkey season right now.
Yeah, it'd be cool if y'all go out and shoot a turkey. If you write in on the video Q&A submission, you do like a video listener success submission.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That'd be kind of sick.
Actually, I've had people ask about that. Like, if we ever
Yeah.
we're going to do that, where like you could film something in the field, that'd be kind of fun.
That would be fun. That would be fun.
So
maybe y'all submit some of those this spring through that link.
Hey guys, Andrew here with an In the Field tip. If you're looking to get more proficient with a mouth call specifically, I recommend going with a call like this. This is the KB Hen from Houndstooth Game Calls, and the reason I say this is because of the cuts on this call. A lot of the bottom reeds are exposed. The bottom reeds are where you get your clean notes. So with a call like this that's cut and has a lot of those bottom reeds exposed, it's easier for you to channel your air and find where that clean note is to almost produce like a whistle or a squeak. And once you find that, there's the front end of your yelp. And then the top reed with the cut on it is where you get your rasp. So if you're trying to figure out how to do that clean two-tone yelp, I recommend something like this, the KB Hen, to get started. Find that high note, and then you'll be off and running. If you want to check out the KB Hen and a bunch of other mouth calls, go to houndstoothgamecalls.com, and you can use the promo code Southern25 for a discount.
Hey guys, it's Jake. We got a quick tip for you in this podcast. One thing I've been working on over the last year is trying to figure out how to be less bulky really while saddle hunting and mobile whitetail hunting. And the biggest issue I always had was I really liked really large packs, and the problem was outside of certain points of the season, like when it got really cold, I never used the full capacity of some of those really big backpacks. One thing I started doing is using a smaller pack that has a lot more expandable capacity, so you can still pack a lot of stuff if you need to, but it's also very streamlined. It's super easy to go in and out of the woods with, especially during early season or just when you're not packing a lot of cold weather gear. This is the Latitude Ranger 22. I used this all last season, and I could pack a surprising amount of gear in that pack, specifically a bunch of cold weather gear, both bibs, jackets, extra layers, along with a platform, or when I was hybrid hunting with a small little lock-on, having a small lock-on on here as well, along with my sticks. And this backpack works really well with that. So if you're in the market for a new backpack and you're trying to streamline what you're doing, I'd really highly recommend looking at the Ranger 22 from Latitude Outdoors. And you can check out the Ranger 22 at latitudeoutdoors.com.
Anyway, so yeah, no, super excited about that. Good luck to everybody. I know youth season's about to open up in Mississippi very soon, and then Mississippi will be underway. I think it's 14th, 15th, 16th this year of March.
Yep.
So they're really, really close to season opening for turkeys. That's the cool thing about being in the Deep South. Our deer seasons go super long, and you have a very short window of time between deer season and turkey season, which personally I like.
Yeah, me too.
All these guys I know that in other states, they've been done deer hunting since the 1st of January, and their turkey season just open in April. I'm like, this is miserable. It's cold, nasty conditions, and there's nothing else you can do.
No, dude.
Other than like cook some chili or something like that and work.
Yeah.
It's like, y'all can keep that.
No, I don't like it. I like our mild temperatures a lot, actually.
I do too. So,
Especially talking to some guys that we know that live in other parts of the country here in the last week or two. I'm just like, oh, man. We're talking to a guy in Bozeman this morning.
Yeah.
Who, they're not having a great time right now.
No.
With their weather.
Yeah. They're like, oh, y'all get the same weather as us? I'm like, no, we're like 1,500 miles from you.
Yeah, he's like, are y'all getting this? And we're like, no. We're getting the opposite of whatever you're getting right now.
We got high winds, and it's like 68 degrees outside. 70 degrees is amazing.
Yeah, no, that's wild.
Except if you're a dead pine tree right now. It's not a good time to
Yeah,
be
they're
there.
falling out there. It's not a great day to be walking around in the woods.
I had to pull one off the road earlier before coming over here. So,
well, we're about to kick off our season. We're going to go hunt Florida here in a couple weeks, and I wanted to put that out there because we will be driving through Florida here in the next couple weeks. So if you've got any interview recommendations, we are going to be down there, and we are going to be interviewing people. We've already got one guy confirmed that we're definitely going to interview while we're down there. Working on another one. We might have time for one more. So if you know somebody in Florida who would make a great podcast interview for us, bonus points if they're a great storyteller, if they're older, if they've just got like
old
school character, some old school. I want to talk to like an old school Florida swamp hunter.
It doesn't have to be turkeys. It can be deer too.
Actually, preferably deer. I'm going to be completely honest. Preferably deer, because it's already turkey season, so it's kind of hard for us to like turn that around super quick. But any kind of, like I said, old timers, bonus points for old timers. We like talking to guys like that.
Hey, listen, let's do a reward system. You send us one. Y'all send us one. If we can get in contact with them and we actually do it, we're gonna send you a little Southern Outdoorsman swag kit or something.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Yeah, if you can come up with a great Florida interview for us, pretty much anywhere in the state of Florida.
Jeez, we'll put some miles on then. Yeah, do you realize how big Florida is?
I mean, yeah, it's a pretty big state. Look, we'll figure it out. This is what we do for a living. We can figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Pretty much anywhere in the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
If they're a good interview, if they meet the criteria, and we can get in contact with them, and we line it up and we do it, yeah, we'll send you a big old swag kit. I'll send you everything we got.
Yeah. So yeah, just submit those. Again, go over to our website, southernoutdoorsman.com. Go over to our contact page or for our info email address. Send it there. Don't send it through social media, please. It'll get lost. But send it to our email at info@southernoutdoorsman.com, and we'll work on that in the next week or so.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. So excited about that. You got any thoughts on the Florida turkey hunting thing that we're going to go do?
No, I'm letting you plan it.
You
just turn me loose.
We're probably going to go get our teeth absolutely stomped.
I know. I've already talked to some guys, and it is what it is. But yeah, just turn me loose, and we'll be good.
Yep.
We'll
That's
see.
going to be fun. What about Bama turkey season? You got anything on Bama's turkey season?
Dude, I can't wait. Cannot wait. Oh my God, I'm so excited.
So again, it's March 4th, at least while we're recording this. When are you going to go start listening, you think?
I mean, next couple weeks. I'm not super worried about. I've got so many roof spots pinned that are like at least 2 years of history with. I think any of them will play out good, and I've already got top two without even having to walk back in there. Top two spots I would go back into, but I mean, probably go spot check some stuff here in the next week or so. Probably right when we get back from Florida, probably spot check a couple of things.
What do you mean by spot check?
Drive, look at habitat, see if there's anything that's changed with habitat, dead trees, blown down trees, stuff like that, like what we mentioned earlier. Not necessarily. I'm very familiar with all the places I turkey hunt, so I don't necessarily need a 100% walk back through everything. I don't really want to. I don't need to. But try to go and listen for a few mornings and just look at if anything's Jurassic's changed with the habitat.
Yeah, talk about the whole annual patterns with the roost thing. We talk about annual patterns for whitetails, but what about turkeys?
Spot on for me.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, within probably 100 yards. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like consistently. Like
Yeah, I've seen the same thing.
there's certain areas they want to roost at, and it's not. You can't tell if it's the same bird. We all think and hope in our hearts the same bird that you have all this history with.
Yeah.
Probably not. And I mean, there's been studies like I know Dr. Chamberlain had a study where they had a bunch of birds collared or GPS trackers on, not collared, but they're little backpacks they wear, and there were certain roost sites that gobblers would use, but they'd rotate them. It wasn't the same bird there every morning. Like they'd
Right.
move around, but it was the same like general area roost sites. And I've found that like in the last couple of years, last 3 years, and it's been again very consistent. You know, it's one of those areas that like there's a couple of them that are very close together that like even on a slow morning, I feel very confident I could go in there like if they're not gobbling on the roost, and if I can slip in there and be super super stealthy, get into the area and do some soft calling, there's probably a gobbler within hearing distance. So as long as something drastic doesn't happen, whether birds get spooked out of the area or whatever, but yeah, definitely seen kind of some historical roost locations. That's the fun thing about like I get the whole like I've traveled and turkey hunted a little bit, and that's fun. But I also there's something very enjoyable about learning like a property and how it sets up, and then going out there and you kind of have a lot of stuff mapped out, and now it's just you kind of know where they want to be at, and you know where they like to roost at. Now it's just a cat and mouse game about can you play it out correctly and you get an opportunity. And that's what I'm kind of now coming into with some of those properties.
Yeah, I agree with that. It is fun to travel around, but it is a lot of fun to just learn your property and go out there. Because I've seen the exact same thing on not just the club, but I mean on all the public land I've hunted in the past. Is like those roost spots are pretty reliable. I remember seeing that on Chamberlain's study where it's like he would like just as an example, there'd be like a block of woods, and there'd be 4 different gobblers, like GPS tagged in it, and it's like one of them. If you looked at a week, there's like one spot where there would usually be a turkey roosted throughout the week, but it was usually not the same turkey. They like rotate it through, but they liked roosting in that spot. And for me, I felt like they've always liked roosting off the edge of like a steep hill. If you're in hill country, it seems like they just really like to be able to walk up the side of a steeper hill and turn around, and they can just pitch right off into a tree and just land and
trust me,
be good to go.
I ran across that a ton during deer season. I mean, you see it during turkey season, but like deer season, flushing turkeys like got to the point it was kind of annoying because I'm like everything in the woods now knows something's up because these turkeys, it's like 20 minutes before daylight, kind of getting the spot late, and they're just I'm like God dang, like you bump one, and like if I bumped one, unless it's a lone gobbler, which I doubt, like if it's hens, there's gonna be a bunch of them, and by God, you go through and you bump off 8 or 10, 12 of them, and you're like, okay, that's good to know. Everything within hearing distance, quarter mile from me, heard all that commotion. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's so fun. Like there's one section of some public that I really want to kill a bird in that I have yet to do it. I've had so many close calls. I constantly can get on birds. It's just the way it sets up, kind of like knowing like later land. It sets up kind of weird, like how you hunt it, how you got to approach it, all that kind of stuff is just strange to hunt.
I've hunted too.
Yeah, and there's always birds, but it's like, dude, I can't, like, I took our buddy Kyle in there, hunted. Yep. He ended up flushing the birds I was trying to kill off the roost. I thought I was being slick about how I was trying to get him to swing around to go back to another section of it, and just unfortunately bump the birds.
That is a hard area to hunt just because of how you have to access it. But I killed that bird in there, and I don't think I've ever gone back ever since then.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those. We used to use this analogy all the time. We haven't done it in a long time, but it's kind of like that bad ex-girlfriend, which you don't have to worry about this now, being married forever. But for me, like that bad ex-girlfriend that like you had some fun with, but like she's not good for you, and you constantly kind of keep going back and like, hey, you know,
Like, I'm ready to get hurt again.
that is how that spot is. It is like it's so good because you hear, oh man, it's amazing, and like you just keep getting your teeth kicked in every single time.
Yep.
But I also just keep wanting to go back. It's like I don't know.
If you could just access that certain spot from a different way, I feel like it'd be a lot easier.
Not really. I mean, I feel like I've got access down on that spot. The problem is when they get on the ground, there's no consistency since I've hunted in there. There's zero consistency of where they're going.
Where they like to go.
Every time it's different, and it's like in the woods setup kind of weird. It's just it's a really weird, like the topography is kind of weird. Everything's just weird about that spot, and the turkeys act weird. Like they're in there, they're gobbling, but like I've never been in. I've had one hunt in there, but I had one that was like thought he wanted to die, and there wasn't really anything between me and him. He just didn't want to come up on the ridge I was on, and where he was at, there was zero way to get down on him. So you know, it's just fun, but yeah, again, like a toxic ex-girlfriend, you kind of keep going back to. That's how that spot sets up.
Yeah, it's different, man. That's that is one thing that I've noticed too about multiple areas. I used to have a place like that was on a different piece of public that to this day I've never killed a bird out there, and I started turkey hunting like when I was like a teenager, and there was never you missed a bird out there. You know where I'm talking about? Where you pointed at the turkey like the first year that you started turkey hunting?
You've killed turkeys?
I've killed turkeys on that piece of public, but not in that specific area of that public.
Yeah.
But no, I've never killed one over there. And I think part of the reason is the same thing. Like for as often as you go in there, there's like never a consistency to like where they like to go. Where it's like most days, if you hear a bird on this ridge, he wants to go get on this ridge point right here, or they'll end up in that saddle over here, or they'll end up in that bottom over there. It's like nope, they're over here, then they're over there, then they're over here, then they're over there. And it's just like no consistency to it.
Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. And like to me, those are like the hardest turkeys to hunt because like it's almost like every day there's like something off. Which to me, one commonality with both spots that I think of, there's a crap ton of coyotes at both locations. And I wonder if that makes them a little weirder, like just like act weird.
Interesting.
Because like the one spot you're talking about where I pointed at the freaking turkey instead of shooting them, should have shot him.
Jacob was new.
Tons of predators, tons of coyotes specifically, and the other spot I'm talking about, that's like your toxic ex-girlfriend, sets up same with the tons of coyotes. Like I rarely go in there and don't see a coyote or like tons of coyote sign.
Yep.
And I wonder if that potentially is a factor where like, you know, they gobble weird on the ground. They don't gobble a whole bunch on the ground. They don't like. It's hard to like track them. It's not like other pieces I'll go to and they'll hit the ground and you can kind of keep tabs on them.
Right.
There, it's like once they hit the ground, they are shutting up. Like almost every time. Like very rarely I've got one to get fired back up. And if he does it. He gobbles 8, 10, 12 times, and then that's it. And you're not going to get another word out of him. And it's like it's hard to and I've tried to set on those birds and be super patient and wait like 2 hours in some of those spots, and they never show up. And then finally I'm like, I'm going to a different spot.
Yeah.
But if I can kill one in that spot, dude, I'll be so happy.
Yeah, probably never go back again.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that, like, for real. Like, I've got other areas that, like, are better than that spot. Like, how they set up and all that kind of stuff, and there's birds. But it's one of those places that, like, keep getting your teeth kicked in. I'm like, I got to kill one at some point in there. And then, like, we're good. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, by the way, I'll add to the first Q&A that we did on this episode. One thing that I like to do, one reason I was saying that I don't like to really go out and start scouting the actual turkeys themselves until right before season comes in is actually last year's a perfect example of this. I'd gone out a couple times and listened maybe the 2 weeks before season had started, but then the 3 or 4 days before season, I was out every morning listening. And we were out there with Greg one morning actually because we were filming that Red Dot video with him. And we went out there and we listened, and this turkey had gobbled on the roost. And then there's like this little ridgetop, we'll call it a ridgetop hub, just like with deer hunting, where there's a high point on the ridge and there's a couple fingers coming off of it in a couple different directions. And this turkey was gobbling off one of those fingers, and walked up. He got on the ground, kept gobbling on the ground, and walked up right to the very top of that ridgetop hub. You could tell he was there. There's like a clear cut between us, and you could tell he was like standing right there. I could just picture it in my mind. I'm like, I know exactly where that turkey's standing. And I went out. I think I might have went and listened one more time before season opened, and he did the exact same thing. I was like, you're gonna die. And then me and you went in there on opening day, and we sat right there in that spot. And it was like windy and cold and quiet that morning, like they weren't gobbling, like quiet as in the turkeys weren't. It was loud as crap in the woods because it was windy, but the turkeys weren't gobbling. And we sat there for like an hour at daylight and let our guard down. And sure enough, little Joker showed up and busted us.
Yeah, as we were standing up.
Yeah, as we were standing up, he had walked in and we didn't see him. He was like he's like 90 degrees to my left. Didn't see him until I started to lean forward and I looked over and I just see like that red and white head standing there. And he didn't like get up and run off or anything. I froze and he just turned around and walked off slowly. Never could get back on him. But all that to say, that's what I'm looking for in those first 2 or 3 days. It's like, one, where are they roosting at? But more importantly, are they gobbling on the ground? And when they do gobble on the ground, where are they gobbling at? Because we keep plugging it over and over and over again because it's such a good episode. But Coach Ron Waters, his episode last year, he talked about like just wanting to find out where they want to be and then go and get in that spot. And if you do that, you can be a really, 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 really bad caller and still kill turkeys. He's like, I don't call it ambushing them because you're not really ambushing them, but you're just letting that turkey tell you where he wants to be, and then you're going to go and put that hen where he already wants to be. Like it just makes too much sense. Like you're not trying to call him to a place that he doesn't normally go to or a place that he doesn't want to go to. You're going to where he goes all the time, day in, day out. And a lot of times you can only find that by going out there and just hanging back and listening to him. Because, I mean, like where that turkey is, you're not going to find that by like strut marks or tracks or anything because it's all woods. It's just there's nowhere for him to leave a track or anything. And I'm not really looking for scratching because I'm not looking for where he's like going and loafing and scratching. I'm really looking for where he wants to stand and strut and gobble and present himself.
Well, there is a commonality, especially early season, where like specifically early season, like first week and a half, 2 weeks of Alabama, where you find scratching at is where they're going to be somewhere around that scratching.
Yeah.
Because like if the hens are there scratching around, he's going to be somewhere in the vicinity, especially hearing distance of that scratching. And that's why like Coach was talking about going in, if you can find that kind of area where he's spending a lot of time, in his little what do you call it? His little lect, like strut zone area. Yeah. If you can find that scratching around there, if you can be there before he gets there, do some soft calling and scratching leaves, that's all it takes for him to come in there. That's how I killed pretty much all 4 of my birds last year in Alabama.
Yeah.
Which is like figuring out like kind of where they're going, where they're at, and the second you get in that really good sign, it's like I need to sit up in it. Even on like the slow days when they're not gobbling, if you find that location, that scratch in the timber, especially kind of a little bit higher up on the ridge where it just sets it really good for a bird to be somewhere around a finger point from you.
Yep.
Do a blind call sequence there, soft calling, scratching leaves. That's how I killed specifically 2 of the birds last year. Was doing that, and I knew that they had been in that area days before, a couple days before, the day before, and then they were just quiet, slipped in there, did that thing, and actually had birds come in and kill them.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Yep. Makes too much sense.
Yeah.
Makes too much. That's how I killed the first one I killed last year. Was I kept hearing them on this one ridge point for like 2 years. I've been hearing them on this ridge point and just haven't been able to catch up with them. And then me and Colton went in there one day last year, and sure enough, they were gobbling, but they weren't already on the ridge point. They were off of it. And while we were sitting there, I mean, we were pretty close. We saw the gobbler pitch down into the like the ridge point comes down right in front of us, and we're sitting off, like kind of looking across the front of it. And we're on one side of the point, the gobbler's on the other side, and we saw him pitch down into the opposite drainage from us. And so we got up and we literally ran and got up on that ridge point above him, and he was dead in like 5 minutes. Because that's where when we saw him pitch down, we could hear him gobbling, and we're like, he's like right there. I'm looking for him in the tree, and I can't see him. And then when he pitched down, I was like, okay, now he can't see us. He's on the other side of this hill. Let's get up there right now. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, he came walking straight up there.
Yeah.
Last thing he ever did.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm so excited. Cat and mouse game is so fun.
Dude, I told Sam and Blakely that because I took them a couple times last year, and they had a lot of fun, and they're who we're hunting in Florida with. And I was telling them, I'm like, I like turkey season because turkey season is just like pure fun. Mm-hmm. To me, I'm like a kid again. it's like crawling around in the woods, like you get to move and everything and run around and get to call to turkeys, and it's just so active. It's a lot of fun. And like I call it hunting like a bobcat, dude. You get to like go out and hunt the animal. Like you're actually like walking and pursuing the animal. Whereas with deer hunting, you're like ambushing. And I love them both, but it's a perfect balance because the deer season, again, I'll say it again, when I kill a nice buck, it's more fulfilling for me. Like it's more rewarding. And when I go and I turkey hunt or I kill a turkey, it is like straight fun. And especially after the grind of deer season all year, it's fun to just go out and have turkeys, which is like the opposite of deer season.
Yeah. Speak about that. How are you liking that new Vortex Viper enclosed red dot sight?
I like it so far. I haven't shot it yet, but I mounted it up and I've been looking through all the things and
all the reticles,
all the reticles on it, and I think I'm still just gonna roll with the simple, just little bitty red dot. I don't know. They have one reticle on there is the red dot, but then it's got a little halo, a ring around it, and I might use that like when you get to more like a mid-morning setting and you got a little bit harsher sunlight, just a little bit there more for you to like look at. But in the morning, I feel like it's gonna be too starburst, like early in the morning. So I don't know. I'm excited to try the different reticles out. But I like it because it took me like 3 seconds to mount it on my shotgun.
Yeah.
So that was nice.
Since your gun's already drill and tap.
Yep.
I can't put it on mine because I hunt with that over and under, so I'm still rocking the Meadow Creek mount and that Defender ST red dot. Just a 3 MOA dot. Works really, really well. I love it. But yeah, that's like changed my perspective. It's like I love now having a red dot on my gun. And like I hear people talk about like, man, why would you put a red dot? Like it's, a shotgun. It's a scatter gun. Like you don't need a red dot. My thing is like, in the heat of the moment, the pressure, the last thing I want to be focused, like I just want to be able to see the turkey and not have to cover up half the bird or 3/4 of the bird with the barrel and the bead. But also where I don't have to be, just hyper focused on getting down the gun and not shooting over the top of the bird by getting my head up because that's how I missed so many birds before. And the red dot really helps me with that tremendously. And then Thomas, my youngest brother who hunted with last year, and he got his 4 turkeys with me. He bought an over and under 20 gauge as well, and then he put Meadow Creek mount and put a Defender ST on his, and he already went and patterned his gun. Freaking shoots lights out. He's got almost the same setup outside the gun. The gun's different model than what I have, but same Trulock chokes, that 665 choke, which I like because I've shot a 555 Constriction 20 gauge, and it's awesome. It shoots a super tight pattern, but like I'm not worried about shooting a target at 50 yards or 60 yards, 70, like anything crazy. Like we're not hunting field birds.
Yeah.
But I want something that like if he gets to 12 yards, it's still going to be a super tight pattern, but like just changing it out from a 555 to 565, like you'd notice a slightly more, at least in my gun, more consistent pattern at closer ranges, which is nice. So we'll see. Thomas is going to try to hunt by himself this spring a little bit. I'm very eager to see how that goes.
I'm eager to see how your spring goes, actually. I'm very eager to see how Jacob's spring goes. Me and Wayne were talking crap because we were like, yeah, Jacob killed him 4 birds last year. You ain't be able to tell him anything now. Now he's Joe Turkey Hunter, baby. How long have you been turkey hunting, by the way? Like seriously, because you had a couple years.
Like the first time I ever turkey hunted was back in high school, and it was terrible. It was god awful. Never would do it again because we were hunting the family farm, and it's either the birds were roosted there. It was like the last couple years we had timber on it before Anthony clear cut a lot of it.
Yep.
But either they roosted there or they were on the neighbors, and you either killed them right off the roost, or you had to hang out on a food plot until 11 o'clock to try to kill one. And 99
deer hunting for turkeys.
Yeah. Every time I ever went, which I only went a handful of times, we never got one off the roost. Spooked a couple. Got down quiet, and we were walking. And I remember we about headbutted these 2 gobblers that were coming onto our property. We were kind of working up. We were working up towards like these kind of thin ponds in the property, and they were coming through it, and we bumped into them at like 25 yards. And you could have thrown up and shot, but I was behind my uncle. I was behind Anthony, and he's like, "Oh, stop!" Like, anyway. Turkeys flew off, but yeah, it was terrible. Then hunted with you, which was terrible. We've never killed a bird together. I've never been with you or you've sat with me and we've ever killed something.
Yeah, not together.
I've
killed one walking to hunt with you before.
Yeah. We've done that, but saying like hunting together, we've never killed one.
We need to do it this
No,
year.
I've told people, I'm like, you're bad luck. I'm like, I can't hunt.
I'm
with Andrew.
definitely not the bad luck
Dude,
charm.
listen, I followed you around for 2 seasons in a row, first week of turkey season. We ain't killed nothing. Second, I leave and go do my own thing. Then you kill one. I'm like, oh, I can't be with Andrew then.
Sounds like you're the bad luck charm.
Maybe, but listen, you hunt with me, same thing. Got the same problem.
Yeah, I don't know. No, we're doing it this year. It's gonna happen. We're gonna go kill one.
Anyway, but no. So like serious turkey hunting, probably maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 seasons maybe now. Just kind of like getting back into it and having more fun with it because I used to hate it. It was terrible, and it was mostly because like I always thought it was like the calling aspect, which that's part of it, but it's the woodsmanship aspect of like you got to go through so many situations and fail to figure out like, okay, that's not working. I need to do something different. And it was like my setups.
Yeah.
Like the setups were the biggest thing. Like I could get on birds and like find birds, but it's like you set up in the wrong spot, way too open on the side of a ridge, birds below you, and you can see 90 yards going down this hill, and he just hangs up and strutting back and forth at 85, 90 yards. Like, what did I do? Well, instead of doing that, set up now where, he can't see to where I'm at until he's at inside 40.
Yep.
It's like that's the difference between killing turkeys versus watching turkeys.
Yep.
So.
Yep. All right, yeah, dude. I'm interested to see how this season goes. Are you a little bit nervous about hunting in Florida with all the snakes and the gators and stuff?
No, but I'm going down there like, let's see if we can find a turkey first.
Yeah.
Like finding them's the biggest thing. Find them, everything else go out the window.
You've been down there before and actually like walked around on some public. I've never actually walked around on any down there.
Terrible.
Really?
Looks like nothing you've ever seen before. Like I went down to like South Florida on a work trip and took my shotgun and my vest. That was like 2017, 2018. And maybe it was 2018. I think we just started the podcast. And yeah, I went out to the local piece of public.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, and it was just like what I thought was going to be wet ground was dry ground. What I thought was dry was wet. It was complete backwards and just it was weird. Like it looks so different. It's like you're on a different continent.
Yep. Yeah, it's gonna be weird. I'm excited about it though. It's gonna be fun. Are you gonna be running like knee boots, or are you gonna go with the Crocs like people talk about?
Hell no, there's snakes. I'm rocking snake-proof rubber boots. I got a pair. They'll be fine. If I get wet, I get wet. But like, it's not so much like worry about getting wet. It's snakes.
Right.
So yeah.
Yep. There's gonna be a bunch.
I mean, it's not. I don't like getting wet if it's cold. If it's warm outside, if I gotta cross a creek, it's whatever.
Yeah, it's like on opening day of turkey. Well, it might have been opening day of turkey last year. It was opening week of turkey because you were still hunting with me, and we like worked those two birds all morning long that you struck up with the trumpet call. We couldn't get them to move, and then when we were making the last swing, we just walked through the middle of the creek, and I was like, "Oh, this feels great."
Yeah. I was like, I don't even care. I'm like, as long as my phone don't fall in the water and I get like completely drenched, like if it's thigh deep or whatever. As long as I don't think there's a gator in there. That's the only thing that make me a pansy.
Yeah.
We ain't got to worry about that in your club. But anyway, yeah, I don't mind it. It's just deer hunting. Deer hunting's way worse. Because turkey hunting is like, you'll move enough. It's like you kind of dry out. Deer hunting, you get soaking wet and it's cold. You're like, okay, this is terrible. Like, I don't want to be here right now. But yeah. But no, I'm excited for Florida. We'll see how it goes. I haven't been back in 8 years, so we'll see.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So, like I said, if you got a good interview recommendation down there in Florida, make sure you reach out to us with that. Got one already, looking for 2. Would like to do 3 if possible. So, we'll see. But anyways, you got anything else?
It's a great question. Maybe next Thursday's episode we'll talk about some turkey hunting etiquette.
Oh,
Public
yeah.
land etiquette.
Yeah, we'll cover that next time.
But, no, just appreciate everybody watching and listening to the podcast. Again, if you're new and just recently started finding the podcast, appreciate you being here. If you're a long-time listener, we appreciate that as well. Appreciate your support. Again, got some really good interviews, turkey hunting related this spring. And then we'll be back to deer content sometime in May. So, if you are a big-time deer hunter, don't care anything about turkeys, don't. It ain't 6 months, Mason, by the way. We should have gone over his listener Q&A. It ain't 6 months we're talking about turkeys. Just, handful of weeks. But it's going to be a fun time. So appreciate y'all watching the podcast. Thank y'all for listening. And we'll catch you back in the next episode from the Southern Outdoorsman. And remember, guys, y'all stay Southern.